Hey boys and girls, are you ready to read chapter 5 with me? I hope so. If you remember in chapter 4, Luke had, we found out that Luke lived in the attic, and Luke was coming down for breakfast, and his mom and dad stopped him and they told him he could no longer eat at the kitchen table with the rest of their family. So he had to eat on the bottom step of the stairs that led up to the attic. And if you remember at the end of the chapter, Luke was very sad and he felt that lump in his throat. You know, that lump that you get when you want to cry, but you're holding it back so you won't cry. That's the way Luke was feeling. So let's read in chapter 5 and see what's happening today with Luke. Chapter 5. Luke ate every meal after that on the bottom step. It became a habit, but a hated one. He had never noticed before, but Mother often spoke too softly to be heard from any distance, and Matthew and Mark always made their nasty comments under their breath. So they would start laughing, often at Luke's expense, and he couldn't defend himself because he didn't know what they had said. He couldn't even hear Mother saying, "Now be nice, boys." After a week or two, a lot of time, he didn't even try to listen to the rest of the family's conversation. But even he was curious on this hot July day when the letter arrived about the pigs. Matthew brought the mail in that day from the mailbox at the crossroads a mile away. Luke had never seen them, of course, but Matthew and Mark had told him that there were 3 mailboxes there, one for each of the families that lived on their road. Usually, the gardener's mail was just bills or thin envelopes carrying curt orders from the government about how much corn to plant, which fertilizer to use, and where to take their crop once it was harvested. A letter from a relative was cause to celebrate, and Mother always dropped whatever she was doing and sat down to open it with trembling hands, calling out in intervals, "Oh, Aunt Effie's in the hospital again," or "Elizabeth's gonna marry that fella after all." Luke almost felt like he knew his relatives, though they lived hundreds of miles away. And of course, they didn't even know he existed. The letters Mother wrote back painstakingly late at night when she saved up enough money for a stamp contained plenty of news of Matthew and Mark, but never once had she mentioned Luke's name. This letter was as thick as some from Luke's grandmother, but it bore an official seal. The return address was embossed, Department of Human Habitation, Environmental Standards Division. Matthew held the letter at arm's length, the way Luke had seen him hold a dead baby pig when they had been carried out of the barn. Dad looked worried the minute he saw the letter in Matthew's hand. Matthew put the letter down beside Dad's silverware. Dad sighed. "Can't be anything but bad news," Dad said. "No use ruining a good meal. It can wait." Dad went back to eating chicken and dumplings. Only after his last bite did he turn the envelope over, run his fingernail under the flap, and unfold the letter. "It has come to our attention," Dad read aloud. "Well, so far I understand it." Then he read silently for a while, calling out at intervals, "Mother, what's this word mean?" "Where's that dictionary? Matthew, look up this word." Finally, he threw down the whole thick packet and proclaimed, "They're going to make us get rid of our hogs." "What?" Matthew asked. More serious than Mark, he had talked for as long as anyone could remember about, "When I get my own farm, it's going to be all hogs. I'll make the government let me do it somehow." Now he looked over Dad's shoulder. "You mean they're just going to make us sell a lot at one time, right? But we can build the herd back up?" "Nope," Dad said. "Those people in them fancy new houses won't be able to stand pig smell. So we can't raise hogs no more." He threw the letter out into the center of the table for all to see. What'd they expect, building next to a farm? From his seat on the stairs, Luke had to hold himself back from going to fish the edge of the letter out of the chicken gravy and look at it himself. "They can't do that, can they?" he asked. Nobody answered. Nobody needed to. Luke felt like a fool for asking as soon as the words were out of his mouth. For once, he was glad of his hiding place. Mother twisted the dish rag in her hand. "Those hogs were our bread and butter," she said. Now, boys and girls, what does bread and butter mean in this in this section. Those hogs were our bread and butter. Does that mean that literally the hogs were made of bread and butter? I don't think so either. Those hogs were our bread and butter means that those hogs brought in the money that allowed them to buy their bread and butter. So the hogs, raising hogs for the Garner family is what produced them their income. That was their livelihood. That's how they made their money. With grain prices the way they are, what are we going to live on? She asked. Dad just looked at her. After a moment, so did Matthew and Mark. And Luke didn't know why. I wonder what's going to happen now. It seems like Dad, Matthew, and Mark and the mom know what needs to be done. Do you know? What do you think that the Garner family will need to do now that the government will be taking their hogs away from them? Think about that until next time, and we'll pick up with chapter 6 tomorrow. Y'all have a great day.